"System, I request to leave the mission world." The summoned system quickly appeared. "Ms. Young, your request has been approved. You have half a month to say goodbye to your family in this world." With that said, the system disappeared again. Andrea Young paused for a long time at the mention of the word family, before slowly looking towards the family photo on the table beside her. In the photo, her husband and son were each lovingly kissing her cheeks. The happiness captured in that moment suddenly left her stunned. No one knew Andrea was on a mission. 10 years ago, the system brought her into this world to win the heart of Gabriel Fulton, the crown prince of Capital City. They went from attending school to the wedding altar over the past decade. She not only completed her mission, but also fell in love with the target of her mission. Thus, when the system asked whether she wanted to leave the mission world and return to the real world, Andrea hesitated. Gabriel loved her so much that she could not imagine how he could live without her. Therefore, she chose to delay leaving back then and stayed in this world to marry Gabriel and had a child with him. Gabriel loved her deeply. He showered her with countless pieces of jewelry as if they were free. Gabriel would be home by no later than 7 p.m. every day and never missed a good morning or good night kiss. He also mentioned Andrea often. When she had a difficult delivery, he stayed outside the operating room until his eyes were bloodshot. When the doctor issued multiple critical condition notices, his hand barely managed to sign them because he was trembling. He eventually even prepared a will, telling everyone that he would kill himself for her if she did not survive. Andrea was unconscious for 3 days before waking up, and the first thing she saw was Gabriel kneeling beside her hospital bed, teary-eyed as he held her hand tightly. "No more kids. We won't have any more kids, okay? Andrea, I don't care about having children. You're all I want." She suffered during childbirth, so Gabriel gave up deals worth hundreds of billions of dollars during her recovery period and spent all of his time with her and their child. Later, their son, Anthony Fulton, also became especially clingy to her, following his father's footsteps. Every day after returning from kindergarten, the first thing that Anthony would do was kiss her cheek and leap into her arms as he shared about his day at kindergarten. At night, he and Gabriel would sandwich her in the middle and tell her bedtime stories. Gabriel would bring her a bouquet of fresh flowers every day, and Anthony also imitated him and brought her a bouquet daily. However, the father and son, who seemed to love her deeply, had another family with Gabriel's secretary in the 5th year of their marriage. Gabriel bought the secretary, Hannah Jennings, a villa in Seaward Bay and registered it under both their names. They secretly met day and night. Even Anthony began bringing gifts to Hannah every time he visited her. He would plant a kiss on Hannah's cheek and cling to her, affectionately saying that she was his favorite. On countless nights while Andrea was asleep, Gabriel and Anthony would sneak away to spend time with Hannah. The vows Gabriel made to her were extinguished. When Andrea discovered the whole truth, she refused to stay any longer. She no longer wanted Gabriel and Anthony in her life. Andrea slowly wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and turned the family photo face down on the table before going upstairs to start packing. She gathered every gift Gabriel and Anthony had given her over the years, filling up 2 large boxes. Once everything was packed, the villa instantly became empty. She could see everything gone, just like her 5 years of marriage. When she moved the 2 boxes to the door, the courier she scheduled had arrived to pick them up. Andrea sent Hannah's address to the driver's phone and instructed him, "Please deliver these boxes to this address in 2 weeks, and pass a message to the recipient. Tell her that I'm giving her these items as well as my husband and child." Before she could say more, a familiar voice interrupted her. "Andrea, what do you mean by that?" Andrea turned around sharply once the voice finished speaking. She immediately saw Gabriel and Anthony at the door, each holding a bouquet of budding flowers. "Mom!" Little Anthony leaped into her arms and passed her his bouquet. "What did you tell the delivery man?" Andrea glanced at the courier who had just disappeared from the doorway before softly brushing him off. "Nothing." Gabriel came over as well, gently kissing her cheek before handing her his bouquet. His voice had a hint of apology. "Sorry, Andrea, something came up today. That's why I got home a bit late. Don't be mad at me, okay?" "Something came up?" Didn't you just take our son to the seaside villa to spend time with Hannah? It's understandable. They're bound to be busy when they have two homes to juggle, Andrea pondered as she smiled self-mockingly. She looked down at the flowers in her hands for a long while before faintly replying, "Work is important. There's nothing for me to be mad about. Come inside first." The moment they stepped through the door, both Gabriel and Anthony were taken aback by the sight that greeted them. The villa was empty, and everything missing seemed to be the things Gabriel and Anthony had given her. A flicker of panic crossed Gabriel's handsome face. "Andrea, what happened to all the things we gave you?" Anthony was also so shocked that he tugged on the hem of her clothes. "Yeah, Mom. Did you throw them all away?" Andrea gently pried Anthony's hand, then sat down on the couch and indifferently answered, "No, I just had the delivery man send them to someone who needs them." Her heart had grown soft since having Anthony. Every year, she would gather unused items at home to donate to orphanages. Hearing this, Gabriel did not overthink things and assumed that she had donated the items to some orphanages again. He breathed a sigh of relief, brought Anthony over, and each sat on either side of her. Gabriel looked at her dotingly. "It's good that you gave them away. Now I have an excuse to buy you new ones." Anthony also threw himself into her arms with a smile and praised her with a cute voice. "Mom, you're so nice. You're the kindest mother in the world." Andrea thought, "Kind? Perhaps. After all, I'm kind enough to give away my husband and child." At 6 p.m. sharp, Gabriel emerged from the kitchen, carrying the final dish he had cooked and placing it on the dining table. They had many housekeepers, but Gabriel always handled everything related to her personally, including cooking. Anthony grabbed Andrea's hand and brought her to the dining table. He pulled out a chair for her before serving food onto her plate. Gabriel sat down on her other side and also added food to her plate. "Andrea, eat more of this. It's good for your stomach." Anthony also nodded. "Yeah, Mom, eat more of this. It'll make you healthy. I'm telling you, there's a kid at my kindergarten who's picky with food." The boy started blabbering, sharing amusing stories from school. However, Andrea found the food on her plate tasteless. She looked up at Gabriel, who sat across from her and was listening attentively to Anthony's stories, occasionally adding a comment. She suddenly found it a little ironic. These scenes and stories surely had already been played out in front of Hannah before they came home. Andrea wondered if there was a point in replaying them for her. Later that night, there was only a small night light on in the bedroom. The three of them snuggled with each other on the bed. Gabriel held Andrea in his arms, while little Anthony mimicked his father and clung to her arm. Both insisted on sleeping with her. "Dad, aren't you too old to still be sleeping with Mom?" Anthony said, acting like a grown-up. "What do you mean too old? Andrea's my wife. Why can't I sleep with her? You're already 4 years old. Why are you still clinging to your mom?" Gabriel retorted. Gabriel and Anthony were at a stalemate and wanted Andrea to resolve it. However, they realized she had fallen asleep at one point. Just then, Gabriel's phone left his side, buzzed suddenly, and lit up with a video call notification. When he saw Hannah's name, his expression froze before he glanced at Andrea, who had no reaction. He carefully picked up the phone and got out of the room. Anthony also saw it, got out of bed, and sneaked out after Gabriel. Separated by the door, Gabriel lowered the phone's volume to the minimum before answering the call. Seconds later, Hannah's voice came through. "Gabriel, Anthony, what do I do? I already miss you both after you left earlier. It's so lonely staying in such a big villa all by myself. Could you come back and keep me company?" Gabriel glanced at the closed bedroom door before patiently coaxing Hannah on the other end of the line. "Stop it. It's too late now. We'll spend time with you tomorrow." However, Hannah refused as her eyes reddened. "I know Mrs. Fulton will always come first. I never asked for anything else. I just hope that you could spend some time with me and even give me just 10% of your love. Is that too much to ask?" Hearing Hannah's choked voice, Anthony quickly tugged on the hem of Gabriel's clothes. "Dad, let's go. I want to see Miss Jennings. Let's go, Dad. Come on, Dad." With the two pleading so plaintively, Gabriel began to waver. After a moment, he bent over and put a finger to his lips in a shoo gesture. "We'll go quietly. Don't wake your mom." On the other side of the door, Andrea's eyes were wide open. Tears streamed silently down her face and then her pillow. but she neither wiped them nor made a sound. She silently listened as their footsteps were heard further and further away. Gabriel and Anthony never came home that night. When Andrea opened the bedroom door the next morning, all she saw was an empty living room. Her phone suddenly vibrated, and she turned it on to see Gabriel's message. "Gabriel, darling, I have a meeting at the office, so I left first. I also dropped Anthony off at kindergarten. Don't forget to eat the breakfast on the table." Andrea did not expose his clumsy acting. She replied to him with an okay and headed out. She had no time to indulge in their acting anymore, as she had her own things to take care of. Andrea took a taxi to the crematorium and made an appointment for cremation. The staff registered her information on the computer while asking her who the deceased was. Andrea said lightly, "Myself." The staff, who was typing, froze and looked at Andrea with pity, thinking, "She's so young. What a pity. Does she have a terminal illness?" Andrea ignored the look of pity and added, "Please send someone to Repulse Bay's Villa number 9 on October 22nd to collect my body for cremation." The staff looked at her in shock, wondering how she knew the precise date of her death. "What should we do with the ashes afterward? Should we call and inform your family or?" Andrea shook her head. "No need. I'll pay extra. Once you're done with the cremation, scatter my ashes." Her soul would be extracted after leaving this world, leaving her physical body to die. However, she wanted to disappear, leaving Gabriel and Anthony no way to mourn her. After settling the payment, Andrea walked out with her phone in hand. She immediately noticed 3 familiar figures not far away. Gabriel held Hannah in his arms, gently comforting her. Anthony also attentively used a handkerchief to wipe Hannah's tears. The 3 of them looked so harmonious together that they looked like a happy family. If only Andrea had not spoken up. "What are you doing?" As soon as Gabriel and Anthony saw Andrea, they panicked. One immediately let go of Hannah, who was in his arms, and the other stood upright, just like his father. They instantly created a distance between themselves and her. Andrea walked over and looked at Gabriel. "Shouldn't you be at work?" After saying that, she lowered her gaze to her son aside. "And aren't you supposed to be at kindergarten?" Gabriel hurried to her, his voice tinged with panic. "Andrea, don't misunderstand. While I was on the way to drop Anthony off at kindergarten, I saw her crying uncontrollably by the roadside. I asked her what was wrong and found out she had just lost a close family member. She didn't know what to do, so I brought her to the crematorium. I was only comforting her just now." Hearing this, Anthony also walked over, tugging at the hem of her clothes. He pitifully explained, "Yeah, Mom. Dad sent Ms. Jennings here because he felt sorry for her. Don't be mad, okay?" Hannah stopped crying and timidly glanced at Andrea. She bit her lip as she apologized. "Mrs. Fulton, it's my fault for interfering with Mr. Fulton's work and Mr. Anthony's studies. My close family member has passed away, and I'm in deep pain. They were just comforting me. Don't be upset." There was nothing wrong with her remark, but just as Hannah finished speaking, a crematorium staff member walked up to her, holding a small urn. "Ms. Jennings, your pet dog's ashes are ready." Andrea took a glance and asked, "Is this the close family member you mentioned?" Hannah's fingers tightened around the urn as she took it. The sorrow on her face froze. She opened her mouth to explain, but Gabriel spoke first. "Andrea, this dog has accompanied Ms. Jennings for over 10 years. They were practically family." Andrea looked meaningfully at him, but said nothing. After burying the ashes in a grave, the 4 of them got into a car and headed to a restaurant. Halfway through the drive, Gabriel looked at Andrea as if he had just remembered something. "Andrea, why were you suddenly at the crematorium today?" Andrea sarcastically smiled to herself as she pondered. "You only thought of asking after such a long time." She glanced at Hannah sitting in the front and replied calmly, "My friend's dog also died. She could not stop crying, so I had to come on her behalf." The atmosphere in the car suddenly turned awkward. Gabriel was about to say something when the driver stopped the car. "Mr. Fulton, we've arrived at the restaurant." As the group entered the private room, Gabriel was worried Andrea might get cold sitting under the air conditioner. So he switched her seat, poured her hot tea, and even warmed her hands. He indeed seemed like the perfect husband, until the restaurant manager suddenly walked in respectfully with a gift. The manager pushed the door open and stood respectfully in front of Gabriel, Hannah, and Anthony. "Mr. Fulton, Mrs. Fulton, and Mr. Anthony, this is your 99th visit to our restaurant. You celebrated your wedding anniversary here last year today. This year, we've prepared an anniversary gift and a celebration cake to wish your family a happy life for years to come." The manager then handed the gift over, but no one took it, and a deadly sense of silence filled the room. While the manager was puzzled, Andrea suddenly burst out laughing. It was this laugh that brought Gabriel back to his senses, that he furiously pushed the manager's gift away, pointed at Andrea, and said coldly, "What nonsense are you spouting? She's just my secretary. This one is my wife. And what do you mean by 99th visit? Is your memory faulty? This is the first time my family has come to this restaurant." The restaurant manager looked back and forth between Andrea and Hannah in disbelief. "But enough. Get out." Gabriel's expression was filled with warning and impatience this time. The manager came to his senses and quickly apologized. "I'm sorry. It was my mistake." After the manager left, Gabriel immediately grabbed Andrea's hand, his eyes full of panic. "Andrea, don't overthink it. It's really my first time at this restaurant." He then looked toward Anthony. "Yeah, Mom." Anthony also sat beside Andrea and nervously clung to her arm. "It's really the first time Dad has brought me here. If I'm lying, my pants will start burning." Hannah watched Gabriel and Anthony anxiously try to appease Andrea, and jealousy flickered in her eyes. She dug her nails into her palm, but soon let go. Hannah forced a smile. "Yeah, Mrs. Fulton, please don't let the manager's statement drive a wedge between you and Mr. Fulton. This is a high-end restaurant. How could I have come here with him?" Looking at the trio before her, Andrea's gaze was full of sarcasm. When they had just entered the restaurant, a waiter promptly greeted them and led them to their usual private room and served their usual dishes without them saying anything. No one would believe it was their first time here after everything that had happened. However, Andrea did not expose them. She only said flatly, "Got it. Let's eat first." She did not want to dwell on it, but she realized there was not a single dish on the table she could eat when she stretched out her cutlery. Everything was spicy, which she could not handle. However, it happened to be Hannah's favorite. Seeing that Andrea had not eaten anything, Gabriel quickly looked at her before following her gaze to the dishes on the table. His face turned pale instantly. Perhaps he finally remembered her preferences. He raised his hand to call the waiter over to change the dishes. "It's not necessary." Andrea shook her head. The meal eventually ended hastily, and the group got into the extended Rolls-Royce. On the way home, Gabriel and Anthony sat beside her, constantly cheering her up and making her smile, perhaps noticing her bad mood. Even Hannah could not help but feel envious, and her tone had a subtle hint of jealousy. "Mr. Fulton, your family has such a good relationship. Mrs. Fulton, I admire you. If only I had such a wonderful husband and son." Andrea looked up at her with a fake smile. "Don't worry, you'll have the same someday." After all, Andrea had already decided to give Gabriel and Anthony to Hannah. As soon as Andrea finished speaking, a dazzling high beam suddenly shone in her direction. Andrea instinctively raised her hand to cover her eyes. She was about to ask what had happened when she heard the screeching of brakes. The next moment, an out-of-control truck from the opposite side slammed into them. Bang! "Hannah, watch out!" Gabriel shouted. "Miss Jennings, watch out!" Anthony yelled. While everything happened in the blink of an eye, Andrea watched Gabriel and Anthony leap past her and tightly shield Hannah in their arms. When Andrea opened her eyes again, the first thing she saw was a white ceiling, and she smelled the pungent scent of disinfectant. A nurse pushed a cart into the room to change her bandages. The nurse quickly came over when she saw that Andrea had woken up. "Mrs. Fulton, you're finally awake. You don't know how worried Mr. Fulton and Mr. Anthony were while you were in a coma. They not only stayed by your side day and night without sleeping or resting, but they also brought in all the best doctors in the city for consultations. They even went to the Evergreen Church outside the city to pray for your recovery. There are 999 steps. They climbed every single one to the top. It even made the trending list. The nurse finished speaking and handed Andrea her phone. In the video, Gabriel and Anthony were climbing the steps toward the mountaintop church. The Evergreen Church was renowned for answered prayers, so many people often climbed the steps to pray. However, it was unprecedented for a father and son like Gabriel and Anthony to do it together. That was why many people filmed them with their phones. In the video, they could be heard choking on their words as they prayed for Andrea to wake up. However, Andrea's heart was only filled with mockery as she watched the video. If Gabriel and Anthony loved her that much, they would not have abandoned her during the car crash to protect Hannah. The news of Andrea's awakening soon reached Gabriel and Anthony. Without even tending to their injuries, they drove back to the hospital overnight and rushed into her hospital ward, pulling her into their arms. Andrea witnessed Gabriel losing control once again, but Anthony joined him this time. Looking at Gabriel and Anthony's red-rimmed eyes and shaking bodies, she was indifferent. All she felt was numbness. She wondered, wouldn't it be great if I had died? They could have had their wish and become a family with Hannah. Wouldn't that be great? Why bother acting in front of me now? Gabriel and Anthony cried for a long time and said many things, but she remained unresponsive. When they finally let her go, the calmness on her face and the sarcasm in her eyes stunned them. Perhaps recalling what happened during the car crash, Gabriel hurriedly explained to her. The reason they had protected Hannah first was that Andrea and Hannah were dressed similarly that day. It was why they had instinctively mistaken Hannah for her. Gabriel added, Andrea, I'm sorry. We mistook her for you. It won't happen again. Anthony chimed in, Yeah, Mom. I promise I won't mistake Ms. Jennings for you again. Will you forgive us? Both Gabriel and Anthony quickly raised their hands and swore. Andrea only felt exhausted at that instance. They had lied so many times that they believed their lies. She wearily closed her eyes, refusing to listen to any more of their lies. Her outfit and Hannah's that day were two different styles. More importantly, they called Hannah's name when the truck crashed into them. Andrea thought, Gabriel and Anthony, at least try to lie better if you want to trick me. Why can't you even lie properly? She said nothing and turned her back to them as she cried. Gabriel and Anthony assumed she was tired and quietly left the room without continuing on the subject. Over the next few days, Gabriel and Anthony stayed by her side, perhaps out of guilt or fear. Gabriel did not pick up any of Hannah's calls. The prolonged neglect made Hannah panic, and she began to target Andrea. Photo after photo was sent to Andrea's phone, and a video was eventually included. Even though Andrea had long known that Gabriel, Anthony, and Hannah had formed their own family, the photos of them together still stung her eyes. The first photo showed Gabriel lovingly holding Hannah in his arms by a floor-to-ceiling window as fireworks exploded outside. Hannah's neck was covered with hickeys. The second photo was of Anthony sleeping soundly in Hannah's embrace. He gripped the hem of her clothes tightly as if afraid she would leave. The third photo was a photo of Gabriel, Anthony, and Hannah together at a restaurant. The three of them sat together and were intimate like a family. The fourth photo showed the three having a snowball fight and building a snowman. All their faces radiated happiness. In the last video, Gabriel and Anthony kissed Hannah on the cheek at a birthday party. Gabriel said, "Happy birthday, darling." Anthony said, "Happy birthday, Mom." Tears fell one by one onto the phone screen. Andrea touched her face to realize her face was already covered with tears at some point. She had told herself not to be sad since she would be leaving soon. However, these offensive images still pricked her heart, suffocating her with pain. Outsiders knew Gabriel and Anthony doted on her, but she had also been sincere to them. Gabriel was wealthy yet lonely. She had always been there when he needed her, celebrating his birthdays, sending him an umbrella on rainy days, waiting for him to come home every night. Every time he felt lonely, she would be there. Then there was Anthony, who she had endured a difficult labor to bring into this world. She accompanied him to grow up and taught him how to navigate the world. All her love was given to Gabriel and Anthony, but she did not receive the same sincerity in return. Instead, all she received was betrayal. Andrea could not bear to see the photos and video anymore, so she turned off her phone. Perhaps because Andrea did not respond for a long time, the impatient Hannah called again. This time, she no longer sounded humble or respectful. All that she said was full of gloating and ridicule. "Mrs. Fulton, I know you've seen those photos. Over the past year, Mr. Fulton and Mr. Anthony have spent far more time with me than with you. Don't think they still love you. If they did, I wouldn't exist. If you know what's best for you, you should step aside immediately. Andrea thought. Yeah, if Gabriel and Anthony still loved me, Hannah wouldn't exist. Instead of saying anything, Andrea only quietly recorded the call before hanging up. When Gabriel came in, he found her lying on the bed, her eyes slightly red. He could tell she had been crying. His heart tensed as he rushed over to her and cupped her face to examine it. Andrea, why are you crying? Did something happen? Andrea looked at him silently for a long time. She never realized how good Gabriel's acting skills were. Taking a deep breath, she replied, Nothing. I just saw some photos and videos that made me feel touched. Gabriel breathed a sigh of relief and tapped her nose. What kind of photos and videos could make you cry? She picked up her phone and handed it to him. Do you want to see? Gabriel smiled and agreed. He was about to take the phone from her, but the phone in his arms vibrated suddenly. He glanced down at the screen before hesitantly looking up at her. Andrea, something came up at work. Andrea pretended not to see Hannah's name on his phone screen. She silently withdrew her phone. It's okay. Go take care of it. I was about to go to bed anyway. On the day Andrea was discharged from the hospital, the sky had no clouds, and a gentle breeze blew as sunlight shone through tree leaves. The colorful light spots made it seem like a scene straight from a gorgeous painting. Anthony held her hand as he bounced down the steps. Mom, you're finally out of the hospital. You have no idea that I didn't even have time to go to kindergarten these days. I was so worried about you. After they got into the car, Gabriel quickly spread a blanket over her legs. Andrea, it's a bit windy today. Don't catch a cold. Anthony also mimicked his father, putting a cushion behind her back. Perhaps noticing her bad mood, Gabriel and Anthony remained unusually quiet during the ride. Suddenly, Anthony seemed to remember something and tugged on Gabriel's sleeve. He whispered, Dad, aren't we supposed to go to the Evergreen Church today to fulfill our vow? Gabriel took out his phone and glanced at the calendar. It's today. Anthony added, Let's send Mom home first. Andrea said, I'll go fulfill your vow with you. Andrea, who had been pretending to nap, suddenly opened her eyes and interrupted their conversation. Gabriel and Anthony immediately rejected her in unison. No. Anthony hugged her. Mom, you've just recovered. The church is high up on the mountain. I'll worry about you if you come along. Just let me and Dad do it. Anthony was just a child after all. The sight of her bloodied figure during the car crash had scared him. Gabriel was also against it. Anthony is right. You've just recovered. How could you go somewhere so far? However, Andrea was unusually insistent. You prayed for me, so I should also join you in fulfilling the vow. Unable to dissuade her, Gabriel and Anthony brought her to the Evergreen Church. The church was far from the bustling city, nestled on top of a mountain. The surroundings were quiet, filled with the faint sound of chanting friars and bells. A huge cross hung majestically inside the nave, seeming overlooking after all beings. Andrea sat reverently on a bench, inwardly making her wish. Have mercy on me. I wish to never meet Gabriel and Anthony in this life or any other. Gabriel and Anthony sat beside her, wishing for the safety and unity of their family. After the prayers, the family of three walked over to draw lots. The priest first examined the lots Gabriel and Anthony had drawn and shook his head. However, he only said, "Good luck." Then he looked at Andrea's lot and looked meaningfully at her. "You'll get what you want." The long dormant system suddenly appeared at night. "Ms. Young, you have 3 days until you leave this world. Please be prepared." Andrea nodded. "Got it." She watched the full moon outside the window gradually swallowed by dark clouds. I'll soon leave this world forever and never see Gabriel or Anthony again." The thought made her smile in relief. 3 days before leaving, Andrea began eliminating every trace of her existence in this world. She had been in the mission world for 10 years, and everything related to her filled several boxes. The first item she placed inside was a pop quiz during high school. There was nothing special about it, except that Gabriel's handwriting was written on it. Gabriel Fulton only loves Andrea Young. The second item she packed was the diamond ring Gabriel had given her on the day he proposed. She could never forget his expression when he slid the ring onto her ring finger. The big shot who ruled the business world buried his head in her neck and cried as he trembled. He kept repeating, "Andrea, you're finally mine." Before this, she carefully kept and treasured every item in the boxes, hoping to recount the stories of these items to their grandchildren when they were old. However, this was unnecessary now. Andrea started a fire in the villa's courtyard and threw everything into the fire. As the flames burned, she turned around without hesitation and never looked back. 2 days before leaving, Andrea copied all the provocative photos, video, and phone recording that Hannah had sent her over the past few days onto a USB drive. Then, she took a taxi to the city's advertising billboard center and handed the USB to the staff. "Please display the contents of the USB drive on the advertising billboards all over the city, and play them in a loop the day after tomorrow." The staff glanced at the USB drive, eyes filled with shock. They stammered, "Ms. Young, are you sure?" Andrea remained calm. "Yes." After playing them, "Help me add a line of text at the top. Andrea Young wishes Gabriel Fulton, Anthony Fulton, and Hannah Jennings a happy life together forever." The day before Andrea's departure happened to be Andrea and Gabriel's 5th wedding anniversary. 5 years ago, Gabriel knelt on one knee on the rooftop of their high school's building to propose to her. Countless drones in the sky created various proposal patterns. Their proposal even became a trending topic online. They had agreed to celebrate their anniversary here every year as expected. Andrea had just come downstairs when she saw that Gabriel had not gone to work like usual, and that Anthony had skipped kindergarten. They were both sitting on the couch, waiting for her with gentle smiles. Andrea glanced at them quietly. After breakfast, the trio headed out together. It was summer break, so only the three were on the vast campus. Gabriel held her hand with his left and Anthony's with his right. The sweet scene of a family strolling together would make anyone envious. "Dad, Mom, tell me your story," Anthony said. Hearing this, Gabriel gave a gentle smile. He was about to speak when the serene moment was ruined by the shrill ringtone. Andrea knew who it was immediately. Firstly, this ringtone was the exclusive one Gabriel had set for Hannah. Secondly, Hannah had texted her earlier that morning. "Hannah, so what if it's your wedding anniversary? Believe it or not, they'll leave you to accompany me as soon as I call." Andrea had only chuckled at the message, taken a screenshot, and sent it to the advertising billboard staff. "Please add this to the advertising billboards as well." As expected, after hearing the ringtone, Gabriel only glanced at his phone before moving aside to answer the call. Hannah said something which caused his expression to change slightly. Gabriel even glanced at Anthony before hanging up. Gabriel then whispered something to Anthony, and both of them walked toward Andrea together. Gabriel said, "Andrea, something suddenly came up for Anthony and me. Take a taxi home first. I'll make it up to you for the anniversary next time, okay?" Andrea pondered. What matter required him to bring Anthony? They're just going to accompany Hannah. His lie was awful, yet Andrea lacked the energy to expose him. She looked up at Gabriel and Anthony, who were waiting for her approval. She smiled slightly and said slowly, "Okay, be careful." Gabriel instantly relaxed. He picked Anthony up and headed toward the school's entrance. As if remembering something suddenly, Gabriel headed back and kissed Andrea's cheek. "Andrea, I'll plan a big surprise for you next time." Then he turned around and left. He had taken a few steps when Andrea called out from behind them, "Gabriel, Anthony." Gabriel and Anthony instinctively stopped and turned around to look at her. "Keep walking. Don't look back. I just wanted to say goodbye." She emphasized the last word, but Gabriel did not notice it. He only waved at her with a smile. Anthony also waved and bid Andrea goodbye before leaving with Gabriel. Andrea stood still as she watched Gabriel and Anthony's figure leave until they disappeared completely. She withdrew her gaze and wandered alone around the school campus. Everywhere she went was filled with youthful energy, and every inch of the place was filled with their memories. Entering one of the classrooms, she seemed to recall the handsome boy seated behind her. His ears were red as he poked her uniform, asking, "Andrea, will you be my girlfriend?" Walking up to the sycamore tree, she seemed to see the same boy holding her hand and carving into the tree bark under the moonlight. 18-year-old Gabriel will love 17-year-old Andrea forever. When Andrea walked down the school corridor, she seemed to see the night when the power went out. The school building was filled with excitement, but only he pulled her to the corner, panting, and gave her his first kiss. Finally, she pushed open the door to the rooftop. She seemed to see Gabriel in a suit and bow tie, holding roses and kneeling before her. He looked nervous, but his eyes were full of love. Gabriel said, "Andrea, marry me. I'll always dote on you and love you." He had also promised, "Andrea, you're the only one I will ever call my wife." He had said, "Andrea, I will never betray you." However, he later made those promises to another woman, word for word. Eventually, she returned to the villa alone. It was nearly midnight, and Gabriel and Anthony still had not come back. Andrea wondered, what are they doing now? Having dinner with Hannah? Watching a movie? Or are they coaxing her to sleep just like how they coaxed me? She sat quietly on the couch until the clock struck 12. She closed her eyes and she heard the system's voice. "Ms. Young, it's time for you to leave. Are you ready?" Andrea's eyes remained closed as she softly replied, "I'm ready. Take me home." Once she finished speaking, a blinding light fell before her. Before she could react, the light enveloped her, stripping her soul from her body. Sometime later, the light disappeared. Finally, Andrea stopped breathing, with only a relieved smile on her face as she pondered, "Gabriel, Anthony, I'm going home. We will never meet again."